Get this led up. This is the freak. As you can see, you know, he's a calf now is about 3 weeks old. Hopefully he'll come to a good price in the back end in the weaning sales. Micheal Haverty here. We're based in Clonberne in North Galway. Suckler farming and rear a bit of dairy beef as well, maybe 10 or 12, buy them in as calves every year, rear them onto 1.5 years and sell them as stores then. The suckler herd will be split between about 20 odd maybe calving in the spring and 12 to 15 calving in the autumn. I suppose most dry stock and suckler farmers now are part-time, unless you know you're in it in a big way. So I suppose I'd rock up here maybe around 6:30 every morning and have a look around, do the feeding, maybe a bit of bedding, check on cows for calving, go down, have a cup of tea, go to work then, and if there's no sign of anything, I have cameras there. If there's no sign of a cow calving or that, look, I can pop home if there is, but if there isn't, I get home again maybe around 4:45 or that, and do another 2 or 3 hours then again in the evening, and sometimes it's more than 2 or 3 hours. It depends. If you could have a cow calving during the night, you could have 2 cows during the night. It depends. Some days it would be fierce hectic, more days not too bad. I did sell yearlings myself, yearling heifers, probably 2 weeks ago now, and an average weight of 401 kilos, the average 2100. They'd be a year old. I was very happy with that. The factory's taken a huge dip in the last number of months. I think the base is down at something like 670 now. And as we know, last year was an excellent year for prices. And if this year stays going the way it's going for lads that bought expensive cattle last year, you're looking at, you know, there's not going to be much of a margin. There'll be no margin. There'll be fattening cattle at a loss because cattle were expensive. Last year was the first year where we actually had a margin and we made a few pounds doing what we're doing. And those were the prices that we genuinely need to make a few bob at farming, to be rewarded for the work you're doing. We're doing a huge amount of work with, say, for the QA and the board B and everything else. We're hitting all those targets. We're hitting all those asks, if you like, but we're not being rewarded for it at all now at the moment. Certainly not at the prices that the beef or the factories are paying at the moment, you know. Bought them in Abbeyfield. I've been buying mostly in Abbeyfield Mart the last number of years. Just find a good quality calf down there. Happy with them. A mate of mine that kind of talked me into this. I'm delighted I went at it because I'm selling them at a time of year where I used to have any cattle for selling, and it was a huge help from a cash flow point of view. I was just a big gap where you were kind of in between selling your own homebred weanlings and maybe the subsidies coming in at the back end, and by the time the subsidies came, you had eroded into them, whereas these are filling a gap there now. It has made the running of it a lot more efficient and a lot easier to manage. The first year and last year, well, not last year, the year before last, they averaged 260, the calves, when I got them home. That bunch of calves there have averaged 625. So it's a fair jump. Now, if prices remain where they are, the margin will still be fairly similar. So I hope that they're lucky for me and that they leave the margin the same if the prices stay up. You know, you can't be selling cattle at good prices and expect to buy them in, you know, for next to nothing, because it's not rocket science. You know, if you know the day to go out and buy them cheap and the day to go out and sell them when they're dear, we'd all be making money, but it doesn't work that way, I'm afraid. I've been involved in the executive in Galway for probably 12 or 14 years. Started as assistant secretary, went to secretary, then livestock chair. And the position came up as chair now. I would have said a year ago, no way, I wasn't going to run for it yet. But I just figured I had a year left on the livestock committee. And if I didn't do it now, I'd be kind of 3 years in and out. So I kind of decided now was the time, while strike while the iron was hot and while I was kind of in the frame and used to be in a national council for the last 2 years anyway, I said now is probably as good a time as any. Without doubt, look, IFA, and I would have maybe even myself in my younger years, and I'm not trying to sound like I'm a pensioner or anything, but you would always have been a bit sceptical of most farm organisations and what they were achieving and what they were doing. And when you get something, you never hear a word about it. When you don't get something, you hear lots of words about it, and none of them usually kind of very complimentary. But I've no doubt, hand on heart, I can safely say that while IFA won't get everything we set out to achieve for farmers, and some people will be aggrieved, and you'll always have that, you're never going to satisfy everybody all of the time. It's as simple as that. I definitely 100% am convinced that without IFA we'd be in an awful lot worse position. Definitely. I suppose, look, at the biggest thing that's going to be coming up now will be probably the cap. And look, at Ireland are holding the presidency from the 1st of July this year, so that's going to be hopefully beneficial to us. We've read and heard about the large cuts that's supposed to be coming in the EU budget for the cap. I think 25%, something to that effect, I've heard talked about. The 2-pillar tier system, which we'd be hugely in favour of and hoping and fighting hard to keep that in. It's certainly much better from the point of view of schemes and that. It'll be co-funded by our own government as well. You have the active farmer. There's a huge, look, that's a very kind of a grey area. The terminology around it at the moment, we're not 100% sure in what's classed an active farmer and what they're going to maybe target farmers that were pension age, that they weren't going to be an active farmer or whatever, but definitely be working on getting as much as possible out of the new cap, and that hopefully the fact that we hold the presidency, that will work in our favour. And I think maybe maintaining the Pillar 1, Pillar 2 is our biggest task at the moment, yeah. Yeah, well, with the current crisis, I suppose, at the war there in Iran, I mean, fuel prices, fertiliser are gone through the roof. I mean, every day there's a different price at the pumps now, nearly every second day. And I was probably lucky in the sense that I ordered green diesel, whatever it is now, I suppose 2.5 weeks. It's probably coming up in 3 weeks ago. I think it was on a Monday, just after the war had started. And it had gone from 93 2 weeks before that to 103. So I ordered a fill. He didn't get to me until the following Saturday. And I just said to him, I says, what do I owe you? He says, what price did I give you? I says, you told me 102 or 103, you do the best you could. He said, it has to be 103. He said, it's 150 today. Like, that was 47 cents. So 1,000 litres was 470 euros just in 4 days. They're definitely very fast ways of reducing the cost of fuel at the moment in the country. It just depends how committed the government are to doing it very quickly. I think myself, they've kind of dragged their heels a little bit now. It's gone on for 3 weeks, and there's no doubt that whatever money they were going to give back, they will have it probably twofold got in the last 3 weeks on the extra tax. I think, unless I'm mistaken, when white diesel was at 172, 173 there 3 or 4 weeks ago, 103 of that was going to the government. So phenomenal amount of money going to the exchequer on fuel in this country, and I don't know why. Am I optimistic about the future of beef farming? I'd hope so. Look, it's the sort of thing, it's very volatile. It's up and down every time. It's hard to give a straight answer to it. I'd be optimistic, but it's very hard to be sure, because you just don't know. When you buy in cattle, or when you put cows in calf, or whatever your system you're into, you have no idea what price you're going to be getting when that animal is for selling. You have no idea, if you're buying in, what the next batch of cattle are going to be costing you. And that's a huge, huge issue. It's probably the only sector of farming where, we're price takers. We don't decide our price. There's always going to be a demand for good beef. Irish beef is probably the best beef in the world, or certainly up there with it from a quality point of view, as the QA, quality assurance, everything is traceable from farm to fork. Our medicines are all documented, dosing, you know, where we buy it, who gives it, you know, the tagging. I mean, the genotyping there now as well, the national genotyping. You know, it's been I find it very good. I've gone into it the last number of years. That has saved work, especially if you're in the Suckler scheme, the skip. You know, it saves you bringing cattle in again at another time of the year, picking out the ones for genotyping. And any time I had to do that, they were never in the one bunch. So you're bringing in 2 or 3 bunches. So from a labour point of view, I find that much handier. So look, yeah, I'd be hopeful that, you know, things will stay okay, but it's not for the faint-hearted. It's not for the faint-hearted. You really, 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 I suppose, in farming now, you really have to want to do it, as opposed to looking at it that I'm going at this because there's good money in it, or there will be good money out of it. It's just something you really want to do, and hopefully, you know, the prices will improve and that it will stay sustainable for the younger lads coming through, like.